Tariffs. Now, you've probably heard that word a lot lately, but what actually are tariffs and how do they impact businesses? And what should you actually do about them? Super short answer, a tariff is a tax that is imposed on imported goods. Governments can use tariffs to make money, and they can also use them to try to protect their domestic industry by making foreign goods more expensive. And let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room here. This is just an informative video. I'm not here to tell you what to think about tariffs one way or the other. This is purely informational. Also, these videos take a while to research and write and record and edit, and this topic is changing fast. That's why I'm not discussing specific policy here, because there's a really good chance that it is going to have already changed since I initially wrote this script and recorded it. Now, before we continue, my name is Brandon. I'm here on behalf of Fulfillrite, an order fulfillment company that has shipped for thousands of e-commerce and crowdfunding clients. More information down there in the description. So let's just start off with the logical question. What are tariffs? Customs duties on merchandise imports are called tariffs, and tariffs give a price advantage to locally produced goods over similar goods which are imported from other countries, and they raise revenues for governments. So basically, if the new administration were to levy a tariff of, let's say, 30% on goods coming from China, anyone who imports goods from there to the US will have to pay an additional 30% on top of the price of the items themselves. Now, this concept is not new, even though it's gotten a lot of attention lately. When we've talked about this in past videos, we've referred to this as customs or duties. And indeed, the US has a long history of passing tariffs. I mean, just look at this list. This is straight from Wikipedia. Look at it. Now, of course, it's important to recognize that the US has used a very light touch with tariffs from the end of World War II to now. Now, there's two big arguments for adding tariffs. The first is that it helps the government make more money, which can help balance the budget, reduce deficits, that sort of thing. And the other, the one that is more politically visible right now in the US, is that it can discourage companies from buying foreign goods and therefore encourage them to buy them from domestic sources. Now, the big downsides are that this can also increase the costs that consumers end up paying for items. This can then decrease the amount of goods that they want to buy overall and drag down the economy, which can shutter businesses and increase the unemployment rate. Now, there is also the possibility of other countries raising tariffs of their own in retaliation as a sort of take that in response. That, in other words, is called a trade war. Now, I want you to just take these arguments and weigh them as you will. So what that brings me to is another big question that a lot of people ask. How do tariffs impact small businesses? Now, to answer this, I put out an open request online to business owners, and I'm going to read their verbatim responses to you. This comes from Brian Croker at Little Rock Printing. He says that for businesses like mine, they, meaning tariffs, can increase the cost of imported materials and lead to higher production costs. Of course, the trickle-down effect unfortunately leads to price adjustments for customers. Now, here's another thought that comes from Brian Lim over at iHeartRaves. He says that higher tariffs usually imply higher product selling prices, which could lead to a decrease in consumption or reduced profit margins for businesses. Now, in addition to raising prices, tariffs may also disrupt supply chains by compelling companies to find new suppliers or by delaying product availability to mitigate the impact on the cost of goods. Okay, so the common threads here, which are echoed by other accounts that I've read after putting the script together, is that tariffs affect the price of raw materials, supplies, or inventory, and when that happens, businesses have to raise prices to make a profit. And sometimes they can get away with that, and sometimes it irritates their customers and they just can't. Now, in perfect candor, most of the responses that I've read from business owners are concerned ones. So I'll just put the counter argument out there so that you can consider the entire picture as well. Let's say you run a business in the US and you're making shoes, and let's say that suddenly all those previously inexpensive imported goods become, well, expensive. Suddenly you have less price competition, and that might be good for you, assuming, of course, you're not relying on previously inexpensive supplies in order to make your shoes. Okay, so let's take this information and then let's go ahead and talk about how you can plan around tariffs. Like it or not, tariffs are probably going to become a reality sooner rather than later. So if you're running a business, you need to at least have a plan for how you're going to handle them. And here, I'll use more thoughts that come from the same folks that I cited earlier. To quote Brian Lim again, he says that small e commerce businesses can shield themselves against risks by exploring different suppliers to lessen overdependence on markets that are impacted by tariffs. Another efficient way is to consider local production or manufacturing with little to no tariffs. Not only does this reduce tariff exposure, but it can also increase the speed to market. And Brian Croker says that for businesses like ours, I would recommend strategic planning around tariffs, sourcing, and careful supply chain management, for example. If a tariff makes a particular material cost prohibitive, you need to have a backup plan in order to explore local suppliers or even alternative materials. Local suppliers at times can be more expensive, but the cost could end up balancing out depending on the tariff in place, and supporting local is never a bad thing. I also find that building flexibility into your pricing structure can help you absorb unforeseen cost increases without drastically affecting margins. The common thread between these two is to start making connections with local suppliers, and perhaps be ready to adjust prices or product development cycles if the situation demands it. So to sum it all up, tariffs are taxes on imported goods. It's a way that a government can protect domestic industry and also make money and balance the budget. But they can also result in price increases for the end consumer. If you're running a small business, you probably are going to want to start thinking about finding local suppliers when you can. Now, whether you love the protectionist potential of tariffs or you're worried about the possibility of increased supply costs, having friends locally is going to be able to help you make the most of the changes in your business. Now, if you watch this video, you are probably still learning more about how tariffs work, and honestly, we all are, so I would like to share some other videos with you as well that you might find useful. Check out how to book freight with Freightos if you would like to see how much it will cost to ship items from one country to another, and check out Freight and Customs Explained in 4 Minutes for a brief explainer on the concept of freight and customs, which is closely related to tariffs as a subject. I'd also like to recommend that you check out the website Simply Duty. If you need help calculating customs charges on items, they have historically been very good at estimating the cost of taxes incurred to ship from one country to another. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Don't forget to slap some postage on that bell so that we can express ship new videos to you as soon as they drop. And last but not least, if you have any questions or really just thoughts on this subject, please leave a comment below. We're going to answer as many of them as we can. And given the sensitive nature of this topic, just please be nice when you do so. Thanks for watching.